Your continued rejection of the standards set by TV just because content is on YouTube is harming you and your success. I'm the Chris who plays games, and this is your CPG rant of the evening. As I look around the YouTube world, I am constantly amazed at the number of people who are amazed that audiences behave in a similar way on YouTube to TV. Now, the complaint is always, TV is taking over YouTube. Look, all these people who have great TV shows are being really successful on YouTube. And certainly that's true. It is 100% true that the late night shows and all these people who have teams of people who produce excellent content, especially comedy, are able to succeed over the average YouTuber because they have teams of people who are making great content. But it is also the case that there are so many lessons that can be taught to you by the TV that you've been watching for the past decades that you're ignoring. So recently there was a video about quality over quantity on YouTube posted by Veritasium2 or something along those lines. And one of the top comments was from the Kyrgyzstan, something in a nutshell channel saying like, yeah, we used to be able to produce content once a month, and now we feel like we have to produce content more often in order to appease the algorithm gods. Now we've talked a little bit about the algorithm and how on YouTube the algorithm is the audience. And when you think about it that way, you suddenly realize that, oh, if I think about the video watching audience, if I think about the audience that is typically watching video on other platforms, whether it's TV or Netflix or anything else like that, do people really want to watch a new episode once a month? One of the things that's changed about the Netflix way of distributing content, the produce all of the episodes at once, the binge watching once every year, is now a common and routine way to consume content. That major producers of content who are investing hundreds of millions of dollars spend 12 months out of 11 months and 3 weeks out of the year producing their content that is consumed by consumers for 1 week. And for people on YouTube to say, oh yeah, it must be that YouTube hates us, or YouTube this, or YouTube that, is kind of missing the point. People forget. I oftentimes say that the average half-life of a YouTube user is about the length of one TV season. It's about 3 months. And I've seen this in my own audience. I can look around and see that my audience shifts from month to month to month as people drift in and out. And sometimes they come back. Sometimes they realize that, oh, I really wanted to be there. And certainly you have a core audience who's going to be there all the time. In fact, building that core audience and exploiting that core audience for the money. No, more reasonably connecting to that core audience and taking advantage of their feedback and criticism of your content is absolutely crucial in order to grow and be successful. But that does not mean that core audience is going to be all of your audience. Of course it's not. That core audience makes up literally your core audience. You have to expand beyond that. You have to hit things beyond that. And the rest of that audience, the audience that isn't going to be there for every show, the audience that isn't going to be there for every episode, is something that you're going to have to learn. It just comes in and out. Now on TV, we get one new show a week for, 10 to 12 to 13 to 26 weeks, depending on the type of show. On other platforms, we may see that they take a few weeks off. So for example, Last Week Tonight is right now taking most of July off and coming back at the end of July and runs from a February to October season and other things like that. These are all things that you see. But one of the things that you do see and continue to see is that producing content on a weekly basis allows your audience to know that you're going to be there and to continue to come back. And when you take a break for a period of time and then come back later, you're going to have that audience who's going to come back and consume that content in the next season. They're going to be refreshed and reminded and want to come back because, oh yeah, I used to watch them. I remember that. Epic Rap Battles of History is a perfect example of this. They've had 4 seasons of content. Now, Epic Rap Battles are not some kind of story arc. There isn't some kind of general trend that you follow through every season. Instead, they're individual episodes. There's no reason that if they could produce them in a routine clip, that you wouldn't release them once a month and do it, all throughout the year. Instead, they do 12, releasing every 2 weeks. And I think that every 2 weeks may not even be enough because the TV watching audience, which is the vast majority of people in the world who've been especially above the age of 18, have been trained by TV on when it's going to be released and how to watch TV, are used to a weekly schedule. Now they're used to reruns, and they're used to binge watching, and they're used to doing all these other things as well. And I certainly think that there's an argument to be made as to whether releasing content all at once or spreading it out over a period of weeks or whatever else like that makes sense. But don't tell me like, oh yeah, I think that releasing once a month is really the best for us because that's how long it takes us to produce them. No other TV is released when it's produced, with the exception of something like Saturday Night Live, which still isn't released like that because they have all kinds of pre-recorded content that they mix in from other, commercials and everything else like that. They have a huge amount of backlog content that they reuse. There is no TV, or very little TV. Most TV is produced a bunch of content ahead of time and then released all at once. Or it's produced from a large group of people working hard on it. Last Week Tonight, or even Saturday Night Live, or other things like that, are produced with a large team of creators who work to make that happen within a week and be topical and be everything else like that. And it's hard. And so sure, if you have a staff of 100 people who can produce content every week, great, do that. Have a 12-week long schedule and then take a break and then come back. And I totally get that funding on YouTube is a very different model. You can't make money throughout the year on these reruns really the same way. Many people want to catch it live and then your revenue drops off drastically. And so maybe you just can't do a model like that. Maybe you have to do monthly in order to be successful, or maybe you have to split things up and do anything else like that. But remember that the audience that you're pulling from has been trained by TV. They're used to seeing new content once a week. They're used to watching things for 12 to 16 weeks and then stopping. They're used to sometimes just watching it all at once. And for you to say, like, the algorithm doesn't like X, Y, or Z, no, your audience just forgets about you. With only one episode a month, they just don't remember that you even exist. Because after 3 months, they've gone on and found something else. Or realistically, if you're releasing only once a month, they only get to watch you that once a month, and they've got to watch something else the rest of the time. And when they go and subscribe to another 17 channels between now and the next time you release a video, the next time you publish, they're going to be like, don't really care anymore. And so remember, with the audience being the algorithm, or the algorithm being the audience, depending on how you want to phrase it, you need to target that. You need to remember that. You need to remember that people are going to give up and forget about you. There are very few TV shows that have been running for 30 seasons. The Simpsons is one of them. But most content changes. You have 4 to 5 to 6 to maybe 8 seasons of a show, and then it's over. And so when a YouTuber comes to you and says, oh, I used to be popular, and now the algorithm hates me. I mean, sure, but mostly your audience just got bored and grew up. The 16-year-olds who were watching you when you started making your daily vlogs are now 24 years old, and they don't have time to watch your daily vlogs anymore. The 16-year-olds who were watching you when you started playing Minecraft have moved on to playing other games because Minecraft is old. And I know it makes you feel old, but you are old. And so when you look around at these people who've grown audiences and then see their audience shrink when they don't change their content, you need to constantly be shifting and adjusting to that. You need to be constantly experimenting with bringing new audience in, because the half-life of one of your viewers is only 3 months. And yeah, for a while you were able to be fresh and keep picking up new people, but now you've gone through a lot of the audience who is interested in your content. You've hit a plateau and you need a new idea. You need to go from CSI to CSI Miami. You need to go from Law & Order to Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Yeah, that doesn't mean you have to go from Law & Order to I don't know, like, I can't even think of a show that's not like Law & Order right now, to the nightly news. It doesn't mean that you need to go from Law & Order to, Caillou. But you have to figure out a way to keep things fresh. And yeah, I know you feel like your life is fresh all the time because it changes and everything else like that, but your viewers don't. Your viewers are watching 7 other people just like you, and they've been growing up with you for months or years, and then they get bored. They get bored and they move on. I support a channel for $25 a month on Patreon that I haven't watched the last 4 videos because I know at some point I'm just going to sit down, and it's going to be an hour's worth of content. I'm going to watch through them all, and I'm going to be done. Bam! So when you think about the way you produce content, and when you say the YouTube algorithm punishes us, remember, your audience grew up on TV, unless you have an audience that's under the age of 18. They grew up on TV. And even 13 to 18-year-olds still watch 2 hours of TV a day. They're used to the way TV works. They're used to binge watching content now. They're used to seeing stuff every week. They're used to seeing seasons that stop and come back and start. And so when you think about your content programming strategy, keep that in mind. You can't do the same thing every week or once a month and expect that your audience is going to stick around. They're not. They're going to forget about you. And they're going to move on. And yeah, YouTube isn't TV, but there's plenty of lessons we can learn from it. I'm the Chris who plays games. Be more like a TV creator.